Alright. We're done with the event, obviously. Let's go straight to story. Alright. And go.
Tale of Forsaken Soils.
Oh, this is the Daughter of Decay. I love this hunter.
Undated. Something's eating the bayou. I must lead the grounded in the hunt for its mouth. The smell of its drool is in the air like a dew that clings to the fences, the trees, the trigger of a gun. I can feel its hunger. It's the same hunger I felt when eating the berries that grew from my mother's ribs, the turnips that bulged from her hips beneath the soft soil. I wonder if she felt
Mother
me
Earth.
eating her, like I feel the air eating me. I followed the odor across the swamps to a clearing. The air quivered from whatever had uprooted the weeds and grass and scoured the soil. A wonderful silence was broken by a bundle of spines rising from the earth. Some living altar wriggled from the ground with wet quills. It grew and heaved with breath from its many holes and dens. Barnacles sputtered, ripe with the stench of rot jaw. At my feet, ash began to rise. A man crawled out of the tall grass, steam wafting from his back. Need help getting off the ground? I asked. No, he replied. I'm afraid I'll never get to touch it again. His skin ashed away. The altar breathed him in one gasp at a time. You're Mr. Cherry, right? I asked. Wish I'd met you sooner, so I could tell you some secrets are best left alone.
Mr. Cherry met with Daughter
Some
of Decay.
secrets must come to know of me, no matter the cost. He spat tar, disappeared more. Does the fox know the name of the rabbit it eats? I asked. Do you think it wonders what the rabbit feels? He laughed. He laughed himself away and out into some other world. Not dead, or even afraid of death, judging from the echoes he left behind. He'd stay a rabbit hunting foxes until the day he breathed his last.
Damn. So Mr. Cherry came to the Daughter of Decay and then she told him to essentially fuck off.
Almanac of the Swarm.
Oh, the beekeeper!
First comb. Listen, little daughter. This tale will nest an egg inside your heart. Nurture it. Bless it with rotten mint and the bones of your enemies. You will need it hatched to go where I have gone. Only then will I hold you and say that you are beautiful. Only if you ascend with me will I call you mine. At the start of our ascension, we were a colony without direction. Hornets infiltrated our hive, and like we should have, we attacked as one. But somewhere along the line, we lost sight of our true purpose, to ascend to become the purest vessels of the sculpture's power.
So the beekeeper
The
wanted
targets.
to become...
The corrupted.
Okay.
After Sophia's blood boat
Interesting.
landed true on the murmur stone, it yawned open. Rip light poured from the stone's mouth. Blue, in curtains. Divine. The first stage of our ascension was at hand. The death pack fled. Appendages from our Lord erupted as altars from cracks in the soil. For hunters more blessed by the sculptor than we rose with them. Bloated. Alive, not alive. 4 drowned angels full of mud.
The
We
drowned.
shot and fired and bombed and pushed, but they paired off. They pushed back with filthy weapons and insects I would have held so close to me. So precious and holy. But they sacrificed them.
The beekeeper is...
They should not be
bees.
forgiven. To see them set my heart on fire. It made me doubt my vows And so I crushed my heart to pull the trigger of my gun and believe once more. One of our brothers leapt from an altar onto the murmur stone, dynamite in his teeth. The explosion stilled the air, and the stone shrieked, opening up like a jaw before it caught on one of our sisters, diving away with her into the soil. It ripped her apart, smearing a long red line as it went. Oh, I can feel it. Some queen is ready to descend from the fog and lay her lava with a quiet thorax. How I wish to go up to such soft flesh and palpitate it like her. How I want to be the first thing seen by what's born from that womb. How I wish I could birth anything other than a human.
So the beekeeper is part of the demented pack, which are part of the the sculptor. So the sculptor's demented. The drowned are the people who are undead, and then the grounded are the people that follow the daughter of decay and the earth. And then the inferno is Mr. Cherry. The drowned.
Ink on papyrus scroll. Found that illegible collection. Breathe water. Gulp tar. Pump mud through your heart, if you have one still. Never was a fan of sunshine. The cloud cover is the only thing keeping me from losing my... Cold and violent, the land of the dead is with you. Let its tides taste your thoughts. Cradle your ambitions, your fingers as it strangles life from the living. One moment, I'm back in the bayou, finding what I was sent here for. Then my sight splits in two, in four. In numbers I don't have the mind to count anymore. Like that damn witch told us, the land of the dead has sown its desolation here. Honestly, I always hated the bayou. Was almost happy to see it sink. Sink so far it feels like rising. At the bottom of the world is the sky, where our moon makes her knives so sharp. Was almost happy to see it dying.
This is people who worship the moon.
Found the helmsman with 2 smugglers. Still had that awful medal around his face. When he saw us, he tried to shoot me with an empty gun. What are you sailors more afraid of, I asked. Ghosts or capitans? Lafitte stepped out to join me. The helmsman ran, but... Stab! Bite! Their eyes, remove them. The things they've seen, remove them. Feed them to the many thousand mouths that gasp, swallow, funnel to the land. I came to my senses holding one of the smugglers' heads, and an arm too. Oh well. The witch told us this might happen. That even if our drowned selves lost control sometimes, we were doing the right thing. Every blessing rides on the back of a curse. Every shadow laughs the backside of blood.
Whoa. Okay. So the drowned are not just undead. They actually have, like, thoughts and feelings, and they still remember. But they lose that memory here and there when the moon takes over. Is the moon the sculptor? No, I think the moon is different. Are there 5 different 5 different things now? Grounded, Inferno, Drowned, Drowned. Inferno. There's the pirate one. Drowned, Inferno, Grounded. The not Desolation. I forgot what it's called. Grounded, Inferno, Drowned, Mariner. The one that's Mariner is drowned. The one that has to do with the... I think there are only 4.
Tale of Forsaken Soils. Second harvest. Undated. My introduction to the Drowned was seeing the Delphine's captain and the rat rip 2 hunters in half. At first, I judged the amount of blood in the air as signs of rotjaw. I was wrong. Death seemed to be the only conversation to be had with these drowned creatures. But a stranger's hand stayed my rifle, tipping the barrel down.
Oh.
When I looked up, there stood a man in a suit with long coattails. He offered me a cup of steaming tea. Maybe speak somewhere less ghastly. He had my respect for sneaking so quietly through the bramble, so I obliged. We went to a train car made into a small outpost. The man smelled of earth and depths that should never be touched, covered up with perfume. He was an animal if animals sought to mate with money.
Interesting.
Pretty country down here, he said. I eyed my tea, was afraid to drink it. Now, I know Finch departed this world with somewhat of a shaky reputation.
Is this
he
still
went
the...
on. But the operation you hunters are set upon extends far and wide. So I've come down to offer assurances. Bounties will still be paid. The parties I represent would hate for harvesting to diminish. I don't care about money. I care about keeping the soil free of curses. These drowned poison it with altars, with ash. Ah, yes, he said. These drowned folks. I beg you to speak with them. Show
Speak?
compassion, even. They rip hunters in half for fun, I replied. Did you consider they may be horrified by that? He rolled a bounty token across his knuckles. Like you are horrified of losing money? I asked. No, he said, inhaling steam. More like the horror your mother felt when you ate the berries from her ribs. When you chewed the turnips bulging from her hips beneath that soft, soft soil.
He read the tale of the Forsaken Harvest? Interesting. Who is this? This can't be Mr. Cherry. This has to be somebody else. But Finch and Mr. Cherry were at odds, so maybe? I don't know who that is.
Almanac of the Swarm. Second comb. When you were a baby, I placed you in a beehive. The bees did not sting you, but you cried and soiled yourself. Even then, the bees forgave you, crawled down your throat to let you know. But you couldn't accept their forgiveness. I am earning that forgiveness for you. Everything I do is for you.
Oof.
Butcher's cleaver failed us. Brothers and sisters gathered at the sawmill for his sentencing. The cow had bound the cleaver to the base of a log flume. We were forbidden to chant. We were instructed to think. I am thankful for our leader bringing us together, the cow said. But I am ashamed of his failure in securing the Mummerstone's graven path.
Okay, hold on. So the Butcher's Cleaver failed us because the Butcher's Cleaver allowed the bullet with the blood to hit the Murmur Stone, which opened. Or destroyed it and opened a portal. The portal where the drowned came from. So they've hung up the Butcher's Cleaver. And now the cowl is the leader?
The passage to our lords. A brother hooted. A sister slid a katana through his throat. At the flume top, Morgan and Median poured out a large trough. Beetles.
Morgan and Median are the people that worship the Scrapbeak. A brother hooted and a sister slid a katana through his throat. I don't know who these are. Sister with a katana, I would assume that is... I'll have to look, but I assume that the sister and brother would be the Ronin and the Shrine Maiden. Only because katana is is her weapon. Obviously, the cowl, the Butcher's Cleaver is the butcher. The cowl is the assassin. We still don't know about the spider.
Listened in the torchlight as they rushed in a black flash of abdomens. I spooned blood honey into the Butcher's Cleaver, and it drew in the swarm to envelop him. The sounds of insect ecstasy were broken by the crack of a rifle. The cow worked the action of his crag, and another shot rang out. The swarm of beetles took each bullet, shredding in a spray of mandibles, feelers, exoskeletons. We must imagine a new kind of violence, the cow continued. What? The way one creature does not stop eating another until its body is gone. More shots, more holy carnage, more beetles pouring down the flume to replace their fallen.
He's just shooting
See
the
how
body?
They move? No leaders, no weak points, just purpose, pure and noble. We listened to the cleaver's muffled squeals as the beetles continued to feast on the honey. On him.
The blood honey, yeah.
We shall become like the swarm, he concluded. Find your own way, deceive, lie, incinerate. Surge until the graven path is found. If you fail, the other packs will ascend. Punishment is all that will await you.
And when she means the other packs will ascend, that they're talking about like the drowned and the moon and the earth and stuff. And Mr. Cherry.
Ink on papyrus scroll. Found that illegible collection. Let us drink from the fountain of death. Here's to the hunter. Here's to... The kid whistled as he dug. Water poured from a hole in his cheek. 13th mate tracked some demented who were rounding up unpledged hunters.
Demented. Demented. Drowned. Grounded. Infernal. Demented. Is there anybody else? I don't think there's anybody else. I think there's only 4, which would be those who worship Mr. Cherry, those who worship the sculptor, those who worship the earth, and those who were spawned from the Murmur Stone, being tainted with blood.
Try digging quietly, I told him, like the Capitan. We lifted a map from the helmsman's friends. All the smugglers' weapons were cached, ripe for the picking. Do you still see it? The kid gurgled, digging out more weapons. What you mean? You can never unsee the mount. It towers the rain silver, blows ash that seeps through worlds. Its weight is the weight that makes all things sink. Oh, you mean that altar mount as tall as a mountain? Yeah, I still see it. Gonna be seeing it forever, I bet. Capitan and the kid handed me guns and dynamite bundles. The weapons were mud-kicked. Holding them was the first time I realized I'd never be clean again. Kid, you ever just wanna give up? I asked without meaning to. Sure, course I do, he said. Then I remember, we're lucky. What a brat. A brat with enthusiasm. Guess I admired him for that. He was right. We could have been trapped in the land of the dead's desolation, turned into strange statues, devoured alive by myths we never heard of, which now roam the dead swamps. 13th mate fired off a flare. The other packs had found us. It was time to drag all our fates underwater to drown, hand in hand.
So, well, hold up. Oh, that's the end of it. The 13th mate fired off a flare. The other packs had found us, and it was time to drag all of our fates underwater. Okay, I thought it was that the 13th mate was gonna kill them all. Meaning, like, he fired the flare to alert everybody to where they're at. I think he did, but So he did fire off the flare to let everybody know, to let the drowned know that the other packs are there.
Tale of Forsaken Soils, third harvest, undated. The four drowned reeked. Dead fish smell misted out of their mouths as they panted. They huddled in shame around weapons and weeping altar. I felt bad for them. I stood with the other pacts who were gathered. This was more people than I'd ever seen before. Phyllis and her primal friends. Sad folks.
Death Pact. Death Pact. Death Pact, Grounded, and Smugglers. So that's 5. Death Pact, Smugglers, / Drowned. Hold on, we're just gonna listen to the rest
On the
of it.
Death Pact, my fellow Grounded, and even smugglers showed up. With all our guns drawn, the drowned spoke first. Place your ear to the earth, they said. Listen. I was the only one to do as they said, ear to the ground. I heard many hearts beating. They beat deep and rooted.
Oh, weird.
I didn't need to listen long to know one of them was mine. The sculptor's gifts aren't free, the drowned rot told me. Every time you touch an altar, something is taken from you. A knowing, a truth. It has grown in the land of the dead, returned with teeth to eat us all. She shot the altar and it screeched. That's lunacy, Phyllis said. I hushed her. Soon you'll not belong to yourself anymore, the 13th mate said. The blood in your body will marble. You'll be trapped inside the worst thing you've ever done, and the sculptor will feed on it. It'll swallow this place whole. Doesn't matter, the drowned rot said. We're being collected, eaten. Here's the point. If you want to stay yourselves, follow us. Or don't. We all got our own problems. Go where? A strange solo hunter asked. I smelled a sickly honey behind her mask of branches. She scribbled notes.
Mask of branches? Mask of branches. Who is that?
In a large almanac. Down in Kingsnake Mine, there's a passage made by the Murmur Stone. The graven path. We'll make for it at dawn. Tears stained my mask. I'd heard more than my own heart in the ground. I heard my family's. I heard the last chance to say goodbye to them.
I want to take a look at who's masked or who this is. It's a femme. So mask of branches. That must be. Is that? Rounders. She already knows Felis. There's the daughter of decay. This is the person who's talking. Could be perched no, because that's not. There's no. No, it can't be any of them. Is this a femme? Jeremy. Probably not a femme. I don't know who this would be. If it's not somebody I own already. Yeah, I'm not sure who that is.
Almanac of the Swarm, third comb. The only way to split my soul was to have you, with you. I could feel twice as much, see twice as far. You were to be a queen in a queenless land. You were to be a miracle of a daughter, not a curse.
Page torn, pasted with black honey.
We demented got to the mine first and uncovered the passage. The cow was pleased. He spared me. My brothers and sisters had gathered plenty of others to bless the graven path for our ceremony. Bleed the path wider for us, he commanded. Deep underground, all sounds were amplified. 5 unpledged hunters were pinned by lances in a circle around the rift passage. Their blood leaked into the graven path and made it pulse with waters from the land of the dead. We tossed Mr. Cherry's equipment in. Knives, brackets, jars of organs, more knives and restraints. The whole widen. We worship our targets as devotees, acolytes, the cow told us. But perhaps it is the targets who worship us. We will seek them out. It is time to give them our blessings. We forced groups of unpledged through the graven path and stormed forth in their wake. 1,000 ship bells rang, and through their echoes, we sank.
What?
At the graven path's end, I slid into a fountain. In the distance, a great mound loomed, spiraled and kinked and made by giants of insect kind. Lightning flashed, and monsters hunched and furrowed in the distant mists. Legends unknown plucked me from this throne. So a legend myself, I set to become.
I'm confused about this one in particular. We forced a groups of unpledged through the graven path and stormed forth in their wake. 1,000 ship bells rang, and through their echoes we sank. I don't know what that. I'm very confused about that particular one. And this makes sense though. Here at the bottom, the legends unknown blocked me from this throne. So a legend I said to become. I mean, their goal was to become the targets, but then the cowl says that maybe the targets want to become us.
Ink on papyrus scroll. Found that illegible collection. Those demented breached the graven path, went through before us. The drowned and I felt it in our lungs when it happened. We puked. It hurt us. Took everything we had to gather our supplies and lead just a handful of pact members to Kingsnake Mine. It wasn't much, but he'd have to do. We put the 5 hunters impaled around the path out of their misery. I asked for their names before we passed through, but the insane ringing of ship bells cleared them from my mind. We got spat out. And the swampland mazes of the land of the dead stretched before us. Every gooseneck bend and turn changed, distorted. Each step of the way, some new and horrible sculpture blocked our path. The first statue was a man making a fire. Then a herd of white bison, followed by a one-legged woman nailed to a cypress tree. In a switchback of reeds, a priest screamed, frozen in white marble flames. A meathead impaled a man against the beam of some ceiling that wasn't there. Another man with a katana held back, ready to swing. We stopped at the statue of a train bent over a hill. Marching out of it were stone children holding guns. A moon-white Sheriff Hardin pointed them towards the mound. "What are all these statues?" Daughter of Decay asked. "They're sculptures, stories, legends and tales brought here by the Murmur Stone," I told her. "Why?" the kid asked. "What's the point of having all these stories?" He placed his hand on one of the children's guns, opened his mouth to swallow the rain. "They've come here," I told him, "so that the sculptor can figure out how all of them end."
Interesting. So they know that the Demented are going for the Murmur Stone. Sorry, not for the Murmur Stone, but for the because the Murmur Stone's gone now. It's going for the Graven Path. So they linked up to go fight them. Yeah, okay, so they linked up to go fight them, along with the Sheriff Hardin.
Teal Forsaken Soils, 4th harvest, undated. Down here, we were fruit that didn't need the sun to grow. No thirst, no hunger. Overhead was a moon with a rotten black scar like a goat's eye. Ash drifted up from the dead land and gathered there in piles. I heard echoes of Mr. Cherry laughing in its suit. It sounded like he was fighting the moon. A great mound rose from the south. When the fog cleared, it seemed to be a mountain, a tower, a volcano, and an insect nest all in one. We climbed up a marsh bank for a better view and came across a ship, or the skeleton of one. It looked brittle, like a dandelion, ready to fall apart if you made a wish and blew on it. "Welcome to the Delphine's ghost," the drowned rat said. We boarded. She said this ship began the story we were in. Sculptures were all over the boat. A statue of the captain jumping over the railing. An eyeless man at the ship's wheel. Dead statues grew all over the deck. And in the hold was a rotjaw statue, absorbing a stone woman.
This is exactly what happened in the end of not the previous one, but the first DLC when Rotjaw came out. This whole thing is exactly what happened.
"Get on, Lafitte," the drowned kid said, and pulled him in. The captain's arm burst into black fire when he crossed the threshold. The boat didn't want him on board. He stood ashamed on the shore and watched us leave. The paddle wheel groaned on its
Interesting.
own,
The
and the
captain
rudder
couldn't come with him.
twitched like a horsetail. This boat needed no captain. It steered itself towards the mound and steamed ahead. Sculptures were everywhere. An old soldier with his leg sawn off and a bird on his shoulder.
That's...
Someone trapped underwater in a rope nest weighed down by cannonballs.
Wait, hold on. This guy with his legs sawn off and a bird on his shoulder, that's the Scrapbeak. That is Scrapbeak. That's literally what happened. That's why Scrapbeak has two peg legs and the bird is obviously a raven. Someone trapped underwater in a rope nest weighted down by cannonballs. I'm not sure about that one.
We almost sunk the ship on the statue of a woman split open from giving birth to a meathead.
Excuse me?
I knew somewhere out there was a sculpture of me. I felt myself growing there in stone. I felt shadows stalking me. They were waiting for me to find myself.
Interesting. So there are statues of everybody.
Almanac of the Swarm, 4th comb. The first time I was stung, I cried with joy. The blessing of a stinger is holy.
Ugh.
The spreading of venom and blood makes
Dislike getting
openings in your soul.
stung by
From
bees or wasps.
Our Lord's thoughts emerge. But some thoughts you must be weary of, child. Some thoughts must be killed before they kill you.
Page torn, pasted with black honey.
We pushed groups of unpledged hunters in front of us, blindfolded and tied to ropes. We shot them if they slowed. The landscape reacted to our swarm. Armors hulked from the fog, sheared limbs, the air filled with hive screeches. And we fired and impaled and reveled in the mud, and bowed we spilled.
Okay.
Statues of monsters forgotten by books and time blocked our way. Herds of decayed horses frozen mid-gallop. Fleeing a skeletal giant. A tree-high horse to rule all horses. Its ribs split open and sucking in old soldiers and the equine alike to mash them with its bones. The closer we came to the mound, the more deranged the fights became. Our crusade pushed through herds
Still don't
of
exactly know
leeches
what the
and
mound
waves of
is.
grunts that set off old ship mines buried in the mud. Every hunk of shell lodged in our flesh only affirmed our vows. Bite wounds and poisoned spines became the language of our story.
Okay.
We were chosen to rule over this endless place. Chosen. We had been chosen. We would prove it at the mound under a dying moon.
Yes, still... the mound is made by bugs. I don't know what the mound is, but...
Ink on papyrus scroll. Found that illegible collection. Myths and curses from desolation's past. Roam under an injured moon. Fables cannot die. Fables can only seek the blood of those who made them. Got pinned in a ravine. Something huge came from the Delphine's ghost. Seemed to give everyone a different vision. Veles called it a landslide full of bones. Kid thought it was a giant serpent. That wormbite fella saw it to be a legion of knights with tombstones for heads. I called it something to shoot, and shoot it to sunk in hell we did. Each time some new horror struck at the ship, the landscape closed up and trapped us. We shot and stabbed our way through it all. And at the ever-wandering center of the land of the dead, we found her. The creator of us four drowned. That white-haired witch who calls herself Lynch.
Lynch.
She sat on a sculpture of Rotjaw. In the gator's mouth, that Gar woman was nestled with a little girl on the tongue.
Yeah.
They held a bundle of wilted lilies between them and laid fast asleep in the cradle of teeth. Strange sitting place you got there, I told her. It's a promise I've kept, Lynch said. Her voice still spoke only in my head, just as always. Great, I told her, jumping off the bow. You promised a plan if we brought the packs. Give it now. The Lord of the Dead is anxious. He knows I am to win our wager. A walkway of pillars and columns stretched away from us. There stood the Lord of the Dead. It was hard to make out its shape. Something like a man stabbed with 1,000 knives. Maybe just some unnamed thing you miss every time you blink. Let's hear it. The bet. The plan. Erase the Bayou's history. Wash clean its transgressions and sins. I've channeled all I could manage into you four. Drain the rest from the mouth.
Okay, hold on. I've channeled all I could manage into you four. That would be the 13th mate, the drowned rat, Lafayette, and the kid, the drowned kid.
And your drowning will end. Sounds like a trap. What'll you gain from it? Lynch looked to the sky, flicked a knife at the moon. I will have a mouth as wide as a sculptor.
The sculptor's
I
the moon.
will learn to hunt as it hunts, take what it cannot.
Is the sculptor the moon? Who's the moon? Is the sculptor the moon? Or I thought I don't remember. I'm a little confused.
Tale of Forsaken Soils. 5th harvest.
Tale of
Undated.
Forsaken Soils.
I made the ship stop in a pale glade where a statue of myself stood. It was of me as a little girl, sowing seeds into my mother's fingers. Sculpted bits of my cousins, siblings, aunts and uncles stuck through the soil too. I stood for a minute, a year, 10 dozen seasons of fog.
Hold on, I wasn't paying attention. I made the ship stop in a pale glade where the statue of myself so she did find a statue of herself. It was me as a little girl sowing the seeds into my mother's fingers, which is the earth. Sculpted bits of my cousins, siblings, aunts, and uncles stuck through the soil too. I stood a minute, a year, 10. Okay.
I came all this way, I finally said, to share my harvest with you. I shot a hole in my statue. It bled over the garden. If I had tasted of them, it was only fair for them to taste of me. My life was theirs too. The shadows following me bowed in respect. Weeds must be pulled with a cold heart. And so we pushed onward to the mound. We crept up on the demented hordes as they crashed upon the mound slope in horrible shrieks and waves. The entrance to the mound center was barred by a Goliath gate of beetle wings. We wouldn't be able to pass through the elytra shells sunk into the rock. The demented pounded upon the barricade and fought off every terror the bayou had ever known as rows of meatheads pushed them into the channel,
What the
piled
fuck?
upon them to drown.
What the hell?
Everyone but the drowned jumped ship and left to fight off the monsters and demented. But the shadows which had followed me drew in close. I crept in their shade as they guided me through body piles and rows of traps. I ducked, waited, shot who and what I could. The shadows pointed to a gathering of immolators at the gate. One bullet was all I needed. They erupted in a chain inferno and set the gate aflame, revealing it to be alive. Pus and insect blood hissed from cracks in the wings, and the Delphine's ghost churned ahead and rammed the injured gate. The entry tore open, and a tremor shook the mound. Hosts of shadows escaped from within the gate, free to roam whatever land they chose. But my shadow stayed with me, for there was still a season of harvest my family wished to guide me through.
So they blew up the gate, and then the boat rammed in on its own, because it's a sentient boat. Okay.
Almanac of the Swarm, 5th Comb. Little one, I've seen the hive where all souls converge. Sky high and stretched with star larvae. Lords quivered from those constellations and combs. Their eyes wept with all the love we waste. And there, in the black rain, I tasted all I've wasted on you. When I recall the flavor and spice of it, I almost remember how to forgive you for leaving me.
Page torn, pasted with black honey.
Cracks from the steamship's impact broke open the slope of the mound. Inside were layers upon layers of the target's pupae. They spilled out, goo slick, tarnished and black in the fertilizer of banishment. My demented guzzled in their rawness. They slurped and burrowed into the pulsing nursery until they were out of sight. I didn't join them. They ignored the Delphine's ghost, but the ship's journey had not ended. It struggled against wind, and the ichor gushing out the gate. So I boarded in secret. I knew
She
there
got on the boat?
was a greater miracle to behold beyond these gestating targets. And so, I left my kin behind to journey into the mound.
Interesting.
Only the drowned were left aboard the ship, dead, quiet, and still. The paddle churned for years, decades. Sculpted cones spiraled along the walls into the sky. Each glowed with stars, eggs, larvae, promises from beyond. After an eternity, we beached onto an island at the core. Every altar ever made was stacked in a maddening pile. To see it in dark sight was to stare at the sun. At the pile's peak was a platform for a statue, but it was empty. I abandoned ship, dodging gunfire from the drowned until at last I climbed upon the platform and made myself a legend above all others. A black rain poured from the high combs. I opened my mouth to taste it. As the first drop touched my tongue, I felt the rumbling of a queen about to descend. Energy flowed from the altars and swirled overhead. The walls burst and caved. An egg spiracle winded down from the center of the rift storm, and the fools fired their guns, their lances, tossed in flaming jaws and explosives that lit the cavern. All useless. I was to witness the molding of our desolations, Lord. I was to be a child to it. The kind of child my daughter was never brave enough to be.
So she snuck upon the ship and went into the mound. Then in the mound, there was a platform. There's an island with a platform. And so she went onto the platform and became the daughter of the Desolation.
Ink on papyrus scroll. Found at illegible collection. Lynch lied. Figured as much. She meant to feed us to this thing being hatched. This monster born of desolation. I fired all my...
So the witch lied. And she sent them to the mound to die again.
Sounds anyhow. Toss some depth markers for fun. Then I smelled the life bursting into flames. Lafitte finally made it to us. Came on an old rowboat. Rowed so hard one of his hands fell off. He flapped the board and the Delphine's ghost blew its whistle in disgust. Whatever long-sowed punishment he earned scorched him with blue heat, orange embers. He looked ashamed, and at peace at the same time. This is what atonement must be, I thought. Don't think I'll ever seek it out myself. He burned and crawled into the engine room to open the boiler. Inside was a navigator's hell no artist could describe. Whatever its shape, he accepted it, hugged it even. Lightning and smoke roared from the smokestack. We abandoned ship as the Delphine's ghost said goodbye to the land of the dead and the land of the living, and vanished as a summer thundercloud rising around the madness that throbbed from above.
What?
Her bow crashed upon the hatchling and tore open its gulping throat. Black steam ballooned its gut and burst. Rest of our dynamite went off, and if this thing had a mind, it was blown apart with the force of a volcano.
Okay.
Your sins may be forgiven, though you will carry them always. May their scars live on forever. May you live to feel the unfeelable. Stormbolts struck the altars, and we heard every statue across the land shatter. The graven path flooded in on a surge of light. Brain chunks glowed in constellations upon the walls, thinking some last thought. The path spread a cover between us and desolation, and splashed over the cave. It drank us in, spat us out all across the bayou, in trees, creeks, and on roofs and walkways.
Weird.
Wherever our stories end, it wasn't down there. Lynch said we 4 drowned hold all the bayou's sins now. I don't feel much different than before, though. Rain feels cool. Bullets cause pain, and pain reminds me I'm alive. Or alive enough.
Alive enough.
A mosquito finds the sunlight warm on my cheek and drinks. I wonder what desolate plane it feels itself upon as the shadow of my hand covers it. I wonder if I'll be fast enough to pull my gun when that shadow comes for me.
Interesting. So even though the boat was destroyed and they left the mound, they're still alive. Quote unquote. All right. Well, that's that. That's all the story. Just look at the details real quick. This is... Oh. Okay, hold on. Spine altars are thrust from the land of the dead, leeching life out of the marshland. Ash bloom is just the riff of cinders and swarming insects that's why you hear stuff. Packs. The desolation has pushed 3 packs to the brink. Water heals the drowned as they crawl out from the land of the dead. The demented is emboldened by by murdering hunters as they swarm with brute force. And the pathways long hidden are found by the grounded. They leap through the shadows. Let's see. Unleash the drowned is to unleash the land of the dead. Drowned packs roam the bayou. They are plagued with bloat and curses of sunken ship. Each drowned struggles to save their fate from the sinking once more. The demented banishing. The vanishing of the Murmurstone has thrown the demented pack into disarray. Their new leader, the Cowl, rallies their cult into an unstoppable swarm as they seek the graven path that leads to targets where they revere. So the graven path is actually where the targets are. before they come into the bayou. The grounded pact fights harder than ever to save the bayou from being devoured. As new forces vie for power, the Daughter of Decay leads the grounded in the search for the source of desolation of which it feeds. The drowned is Casual Lafayette, the Deckhand, the Hornback. The Hornback. The Demented is the Beast Hunter, the Scourge of Meridian and Morgan, and the Scarecrow. And the Grounder is Daughter of Decay, Teki Wraith, and Lunar Wolf. You will also receive a 10% boost when using the Drowned Rat, the Drowned Kid, 13th Mate, the Coalbearer, the Beekeeper, and the Cowl, not pledged to any pact. The Coal Runner? The Coal Bear. That must be Santa. The Coal Bear. Yeah, okay.